Hello and welcome back to the AtScale Cloud Transformation course. My name is Dan Schulwolf. When it comes to migrating to the cloud, many companies have been reluctant to do so due to security concerns. But the fact is, cloud providers offer world-class security. When using the AtScale virtual data warehouse, you inherit the security protocols of your cloud data platform of choice. AtScale also lets you create an additional level of security at the cell level and for the user. In this video, Chris Oshiro, Vice President of Sales Engineering, will discuss the variety of security enhancements that AtScale offers, from basics like LDAP or Active Directory for user management to more advanced enhancements such as true delegation and multi-tenancy.
Hi, my name is Chris Oshiro. I'm the VP of Sales Engineering at AtScale, and welcome back to the Cloud Migration course. So today we're going to talk about security. So with the big move to the cloud, many companies were initially very reluctant to move to the cloud because of the security concerns. So moving data from on-prem, off-prem to security sounds scary, or at least it sounded scary. Today we know the cloud providers offer world-class security that rivals, frankly, on-prem solutions. But what about things like object-level security, role-level security, enterprise integration points? AtScale is going to provide your organization the most robust virtual data services and at the same time, the most protected data by combining both unique AtScale security options and seamlessly integrating with the ecosystem's best of breed security packages. Without this set of robust security options, frankly, many organizations can still not migrate to the cloud, even with the aforementioned infrastructure security that the cloud providers now have. So first, quick reminder in the AtScale architecture on the cloud, very much like on-prem. But on the upper left-hand corner, we represent ourselves as a single instance in the cloud. Certainly you can have more than one AtScale instance. However, you need one AtScale instance, and we work with several native cloud query services like Redshift, Google BigQuery, Snowflake, for example. You can also opt for Hadoop in the cloud, right? So you can work with engines like Impala, Spark, and Hive. At the end of the day, AtScale is going to obfuscate the underlying data platform for the end consumer. It's going to look like a cube. It's a virtual cube available for all BI tools to consume via MVX or SQL. So on the topic of security, we can talk for hours. So we're going to talk about the major highlights. We'll talk about security in a couple of different ways. The first way is, how do we work with your enterprise tools? So AtScale supports both LDAP and Active Directory for user management. It's really a non-starter if we didn't, right? So that's step one. Customers already have user management systems where they define people, their roles, their groups. So we're not going to reinvent the wheel here. There are some new cloud-based directory options as well that we natively support. The second thing you should think about is, how do we respect security requirements on the native data platform? So file and table permissions. Certain things that are Hadoop-centric like Kerberos, Sentry, Ranger, AtScale supports all of this. Once you have underlying data rules in place, the only way to respect those rules properly would be to properly impersonate these query users. It's something we call true delegation. Because AtScale does not copy or move your data from wherever your data platform is to some third-party repository, and we keep our intelligent aggregates on the same data platform, this allows AtScale to give your enterprise the ability to manage these rules in one place. Don't replicate it, don't replicate the data, don't replicate the rules, they get out of sync. And we simply follow the rules for your data protection. And of course, as part of your overall data platform requirements, you might also require some encryption in flight. We support that as well. The next set of bullets is around AtScale security enhancements, if you will. This means that AtScale does certain things above and beyond what your data platform is going to provide. So first is, we have several roles within AtScale. You could find some of your own, of course. And they will show us, and they will define what users can and cannot do in your organization, right? So you could be an organizational admin, or someone might be just a query user. These rules, of course, are mapped to groups inside of your user directory for simplicity's sake. Now, once you define certain AtScale data services, our OLAP cubes, our virtual cubes, you want to be able to secure them, not just by role, but you also want to be able to secure them a little bit more granularly at the project and the cube level. Here's the biggie. AtScale will rewrite your query at the underlying level to enforce role level security. How about that? When you consider all the new data platforms out there, they've been doing some fantastic things in terms of scale and supporting cloud. But remember, AtScale is an enterprise BI platform, and we figured out how to return rows based on who you are. The next is multi-tenancy. You have one AtScale install. We can support multiple lines of businesses with discrete projects and cubes. Nothing needs to be shared, all managed from one place. Now, once you start building AtScale, the other part that you want to do is you actually want to protect certain data elements. So if you have a large complex cube, you might want to prevent certain people from seeing certain elements, certain dimensions, certain measures. So we call this cube perspectives. So it wouldn't be a proper webinar if we didn't show you a demo. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to create a security dimension and also how to create a cube perspective. So let's go ahead and go to product. All right. Let me grow this out just a bit. Okay, so if you've been watching some of our cloud migration course, this model is not, it should be fairly familiar to you. We've been reusing it. So we're going to need a security table, and we're going to add it as a security dimension. So a security table simply has a list of dimension members associated to the appropriate users. So let me show you how I did that. Very simple example today. I've created a country mapping table where I have country values and their corresponding users, right? So you'll see here Australia and permissions for Kelly. Kelly shows up a couple times here. And Kelly has access to Australia, Canada, and France. You'll see Australia shows up for other users as well, obviously, right? So you'll have multiple users have access to these elements. So let's go ahead and add this security table into AtScale. So the table already exists. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the customer dimension, right? So the customer dimension is all the enrichment information about the customer. If I double click on the customer dimension, you'll notice that the customer dimension has its own proper dimensions, making this, of course, a snowflake schema. Let's open up the geography dimension. It's composed of 4 discrete tables. So we're going to go now into the library. We're going to add a new security dimension. And I'm going to pick a data set. It's that country map data set, if you remember from the other interface. And we have to pick the filter keys, which is going to be the country. And we're going to pass the IDs. So done. So now we have the security table or the dimension, security dimension on my canvas. I now just have to associate one of these to my security dimension. So I'll take country, drag it over. I'm going to go ahead and click on save. And now we're done. We have effectively protected this model. So before we go ahead and publish this, let's go over to Tableau and run a query. So I'm going to bring in sales amount. I'm going to bring in row count for color and size. All right. And we'll bring in country. Right now, this guy is unsecured. It's pulling across all the countries. Now we just added this security dimension. So let's go ahead and publish this change. Publish, publish. The great thing here is that I can go back to my BI tool. I'm going to refresh this query. And without making any modifications to the query, any modifications to the application, right? AtScale is going to pull in the user ID. In this case, it's Kelly, and it's going to enforce the Kelly restrictions. So now we're only bringing back Australia, Canada, and France. So let's take a look at what those queries look like on the AtScale side. You refresh this. All right. So we got these 2 queries, right? This one that just came before the last was the unsecured one. So let's take a look at that one first. All right. So we got the inbound query from Tableau, fairly simple, right? It's asking for 3 elements. It's coming from the Internet Sales Cube, right? And now outbound query. And this is being passed down to the online data platform. In this case, it's Impala, but it could be any of the data platforms we were talking about earlier. Important here is that we are going against an aggregate table. We could have been going against the raw table. Let's expand the last query. Now the last query looks identical from the Tableau side. The difference now is that we're bringing in the user ID. And here's what's fantastic. I think for me, there's two things that are really important. Number one is that we're adding the user ID, right? So you can see the user, Kelly, right? Logs in, submits her query, her ID gets passed. And I think really importantly, what we don't pass is country equals Australia, country equals France, country equals Canada. Because the mentioned members in some organizations could be considered secured as well. So you don't want to be passing the mentioned members over query if you don't have to. So AtScale doesn't do that. The second thing that's really important for me is that we're using an aggregate. Now, because we have aggregate widening, we've talked about this in other webinars, but AtScale creates aggregates that are essentially bigger than what we need, right? It does that so that we cast a wider net. But when we do that, we still do the proper impersonation and we still do everything we need to do, so we only return back the data that needs to get returned. So we've added security dimension. Now we've secured data. Now we're essentially have row level security. So what's next, right? The next thing we want to do is essentially now enforce column level security. What if we want to not allow Kelly to see certain data elements? All right, so let's take this a little step further. Let's go back into my cube here and go to the main canvas. And what we're going to do is we're going to add now a perspective, right? So here's my perspectives option. Here's my icon. I'm going to go ahead and click this, and we're going to add a new perspective. Let's go ahead and call this Kelly's perspective. And we're going to start hiding stuff. So let's say, hey, we don't want to do any analytics for Kelly on product. We just want to give this individual customer. Let's get rid of everything else, basically, like no gender. We'll keep geography for the country. We'll get rid of the order, size, all of this stuff, right? We don't need to expose any of this. And in our measures, let's go ahead and hide tax. Let's hide count. Let's hide estimate count, and we'll hide the calculated measure. So essentially, is we're providing a limited view, right? So we'll save this. We're going to publish. Perfect. Now what we have here is our cube and our perspective, right? So we're going to go ahead and download the TDS for connecting to the Kelly's perspective. So let's go ahead and open that. And when we go into this new environment, this of course can be any BI tool, but we're going to log in as Kelly. All right. And what we're going to see on the left-hand side is a definition of the perspective. Here we go. So the data elements are now restricted, right? This is a big aha moment, because essentially it means that you can have a large complex cube, but you can expose subsets of that cube where appropriate. And remember, all the rules apply. You can apply row level security, users, all kind of more granular security based on the user, based on the role, etc. So I'm going to bring in sales amount. Oh, we got an error. All right, so let's see. Table Kelly's doesn't exist. So here's what happened. Perspectives, because they are inherently a limiting factor, when you add a perspective in AtScale, AtScale assumes here that because perspectives are limiting, we're not going to just open it up to the world, right? Makes a lot of sense. All right, so let's go ahead to our perspective and take a look at security. In fact, what we did is we created a perspective, but we assigned it to no one. So let's go ahead and grab Kelly and give her query access. We'll save this so we won't check the CTAS. That's for another webinar. Great. So let's publish this change now that we've finally given Kelly access to this. And let's refresh. Okay, we brought in sales amount. And now we're going to want to bring in row count. Here we go for row count for color and also for size, the same way we did it before. And we'll bring in country. Now we're going to see that we have a response of Australia, Canada, and France, which is row level security. And we've restricted the elements that we've exposed to Kelly. We have done now an extremely advanced enterprise grade security mechanism. And if we go back to AtScale, you're going to see the queries inbound. Let me refresh my query page. You'll see a couple failures down here. This is when we didn't give Kelly access, right? In the last query, look at what it looks like. looks the same, right? So the end user's application still sees as very similar. The only difference now is that we're going against Kelly's perspective. The difference here on the underlying data sets is actually none. AtScale smart enough to pass Kelly. AtScale smart enough, check this out, to go against the same aggregate. So the parent aggregate, if you will, or the aggregate generated by the master cube is now being utilized by the perspectives. This is intelligent aggregation being built. We create a lot of reuse, and we want to be able to make sure that we don't waste our time when we're building aggregates. So there you go. With AtScale, you have a leading enterprise-ready platform. It has an architecture that's going to allow you to do a couple of things. Remember, keep the data in place. Don't copy it. Don't move it. Don't let solutions tell you, hey, let's just temporarily put it here or have an index there. No, keep it in place. The second thing is you want to install AtScale natively on the cloud. You don't want to have a solution that installs somewhere and doesn't copy paste or needs to be in another VNet. No, install it natively. You want to create an optimization layer. This is our intelligent aggregates, but an optimization layer shouldn't be leaving the platform. You want to also be queryable from multiple BI tools, including SQL and MDX. If I connected an MDX query to this cube, I would have received an MDX query and I would have punched out the Kelly where clause. And you want to have all that with the most robust security options available. So that's it. So I think if it's worth doing, do it at scale. So thanks a lot. Looking forward to our next. Bye-bye.
To recap, AtScale provides a variety of security options that seamlessly integrate with and augment your cloud data platform security package. AtScale's virtual data warehouse supports both LDAP and Active Directory for user management, and row and cell level security for your data. Thank you for watching the AtScale Cloud Migration course. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. We look forward to hearing from you soon.